Kyle Larson has won in everything and pretty much everywhere he's ever raced. But after 4 trips to Australia, he's yet to win here. Why? Let's talk about it in this video. So 12 years ago, Kyle had his first stint here in Australia, driving the Milburn number 68 down in Victoria and South Australia. And although he got some podiums after some impressive drives, he didn't win a race. And then it took him 5 years to come back, where he drove in Sydney, driving the Waldron-owned number 1K. And again, while he led some laps, he only got podiums. And then a few years later in 2020, he drove the Dyson number 99. And to be honest, going by his results, that was probably his worst stint, where he got involved in a fair few wrecks. Now, as a 3-time and the current Knoxville Nationals champion, he's back in Australia in 2024, driving for Jason Pride Motorsport in their beautiful 1K. Here at the Perth Motorplex for the High Limit International, the first 2 nights haven't been bad, but again, he's yet to win. On the first night, he ran 4th and got the Hard Charger award. And then last night here at the Perth Motorplex, he won the dash and led early on until he absolutely nailed the wall and it ruined his race. The guy is a dominant force in whatever he races, and you would have thought by now that he definitely would have won here in Australia. I caught up with Kyle himself at the end of last night and asked him about having never won here in Australia, how he compares each ride he's been in when here, and what he thinks of the Perth Motorplex, and if he wants to come back.
You've never won in Australia.
I know.
Does that play on your mind at all?
No, I mean, not while I'm racing at all. Obviously, when you have a car that good and then you make a mistake, it crosses my mind after. I'm like, fuck. But, no, I mean, we're really, really fast. So as long as I can just keep it out of the wall tomorrow, I think we'll have a good shot.
How do you compare this ride with Jason to your 3 previous visits to Australia?
Yeah, I've always been in really great equipment here. I just, I think, it helps having Trevor here, who's familiar with, our setups and stuff in the States with Paul. And so I feel like, and 2, this is like the most normal track to America that I've been to here. So that probably helps as well. But yeah, I definitely feel the most comfortable this trip than I have in the past.
Do you want to keep coming back here to Perth?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, and 2, it's a quick trip for me. It's not like I think I'd get burnt out if I was here for 2.5, 3 weeks.
Sure.
But just here for a week is nice. Just come and race and get out, and I love it too because the city of Perth is really nice. We're staying at the casino, so there's like lots of things to do. I think when I've been here in Australia in the past, you're just driving from track to track, and there's not really a whole lot going on around any of the tracks. So it kind of reminds me of like when I would go to the Springs and stay in Auckland and have a bunch to do. So it's just a beautiful weather, awesome facility, and then the racetrack is top notch too. So yeah, I hope to keep coming back. I love it. And yeah, I mean, the travel's not too bad. It doesn't feel as long as what it looks like on paper.
Shockingly, I think he can and will win here in Australia. I think not seeing him win yet is a talking point and creates interest. To be honest, what he did last night is no different to when he does win. On such a fast track that requires so much momentum, he's able to build up more than anyone else on the racetrack and chase them down and do what's harder again is actually pass them after creating a battle. And then once he's in front, for the drivers behind him to then catch him and pass him is a whole nother thing. Maybe he's just waiting to win the 100K tonight. In my opinion, after having not won yet during his 4 trips, I honestly think that we're just waiting for it to happen. At the same time, it's a really good example that results aren't a true reflection of a driver's performance or ability. I don't think anyone watching this is thinking that he's not capable of winning in Australia. All right, so let's get into what happened last night for night 2 of the High Limit International. First of all, there was much cooler weather and very overcast as opposed to the first night where there was not a cloud in the sky. But just like night number 1, the crowd packed in very early and we met with a lot of fans and got a bunch of photos with all of them, and a lot of you guys have sent them through. There was even a girl wearing my own t-shirt from a few years ago back when I was racing, and I picked her out because I remember getting a photo with her last year. I guess you could say I'm kind of a big deal. All right, that's all of the important stuff for this video. I'm just kidding. Pretty quickly, it came time for hot laps and all the cars were out on track, and then we were just kind of standing around waiting, and I'm like, what's the holdup? And I asked, I think it was Tony Laporta from the Flow Racing coverage, and he said, we've got no power.
Just wait for some power!
I think a few people were critical of the Motorplex as if they had done something wrong, but it was a Western power problem. And I heard that maybe General Manager Gavin Migro gave them a quick call and said, hey, we need our power back really quickly. And we were thinking it was going to take till maybe even 10 p.m. at night for the power to come back on. But honestly, it only took, I think, maybe 20 minutes or half an hour. And by 5:45 p.m., we were back racing again. While we waited though, a few fun things happened. Brad Sweet got to drive Coney around and even wrecked it. I caught Kerry Madsen sitting with David Priolo. We're used to seeing David race a sprint car himself, but for a little while now he hasn't raced, and I asked him why, and he said he's just really enjoying racing karts with his son. I also caught James McFadden's crew chief Buzzy watching the highlights from last night. I guess he was just reminiscing on what was a pretty cool night for them. A lot of you seem to really be interested in Dane Kingshot's Wilson Brewing helmet, which looks pretty spectacular. So I wanted to walk around and grab a bunch of other helmet pictures, and to be honest, it's quite surprising how many nice helmets are out there. I'd love to see those of you that are watching this comment below and see if you can guess whose helmets these are. Once the power was back on, it was time for the drivers to get ready. The track was much faster last night than the first night. The track record is a 12.4 second lap, and on the first night, the quickest lap time during qualifying was 1 second slower than that track record. Last night though, it was right in the middle, and quick time was a 12.9 second lap, and that was set by Brad Sweet, who was the first car out on track. Larson ended up second quick, and I also caught Brooke Newson, who seemed to have a problem. I think she blew a rear end, and she looked pretty dejected as soon as she came in. McFadden did a great job to go third quick because he went out pretty late too. If you didn't know, here at the Motorplex, they actually stage everyone on the back straight on that new road that they have on the infield, and then they push off, and the scales are outside the track. But they wait until everyone does qualifying, and it seems a little bit odd that they would even kind of bother weighing them. It's much quicker to run through the proceedings of qualifying, but at the same time, if you wanted to be underweight and then put weight in the car, it seems very easy for teams to do so. I guess as long as the competitors are happy to do it that way, then it's all even, right? As I was walking off the track after qualifying, I saw all of the dust and took this picture right here over in turns 3 and 4. Imagine sitting that close. Well, our speedway at home in Sydney makes you sit that close and kind of get covered in crap a bit. We have sold an incredible amount of merchandise, which helps us to keep making this content. So whether you're here at the track or online, thank you to everyone that enables us to keep doing this. There was actually only so much we could bring over in 4 big bags, and we're gonna go back with pretty much empty bags, so thank you. When I went back out onto the track for the heat races, I noticed there's actually 2 conies. They even had shirts made for this cone, and I don't know how many they got made, but they've already sold out of them and had to reprint them. I caught up with Ty Wolfenden, who is a World Speedway bike champ. He was watching on as Matt Eagle was interviewed and then got interviewed himself. I don't know about you guys, but to me, the wheel spin that's part of High Limit is a real vibe. And I think that is almost solely because Tony Laporta knows how to captivate a crowd. We posted this video yesterday, and yes, I only spun this once and it landed on a perfect 00. A lot of you seem to think that we had a lot of goes at this, and that really isn't the truth. Here's the original clip.
Yeah.
Yep, rolling.
Pretty good. .00, what a roll. Spin. All right, cool.
By far, the race of the night was the dash between Kyle Larson and James McFadden. If you haven't watched it yet, go find the highlights. I assume it's on the High Limit Racing page or Flow Racing page. It really was the reason why everyone came here, right? I went back to the pits and walked around a bit, and I went to see Jock Goodyear's team, and I actually found Luke Oldfield sitting in his mule, which was completely random. I have no idea why he was even there. Then the promotion put on a drone show, which was pretty cool to see, but at the same time, a little bit odd, I guess. I'm really glad that they tried it. Maybe it just needs some more exciting music for it. Having spoken to the promoters, if tonight's weather plays its part, sounds like there's going to be some pretty cool fireworks and maybe even some skydivers coming in. So it's going to be a spectacular night tonight. We'll make sure to capture as much of that as possible. Matt caught this pretty cool shot of Callum Williamson and his daughter watching on. I thought that was pretty special. The feature actually started pretty early, but it was nothing like night number one where there was only one stoppage. There were multiple stoppages. Priolo wrecked in turns 1 and 2 on the first lap, and we caught the crew grinding off the rear crash bar. Then after one lap in, Zierfoss stopped after a spin, and just when you thought that Kyle Larson would probably lead every lap, he got into the wall. To be honest, he never even looked like missing it. He absolutely nailed it. That broke the rear arm, it ruined his Jacobs ladder, and when the team rushed to get him back out, they didn't have time to put the bleeder back in the right rear. Eliasson got caught up in a wreck just after that, and he had to come in and change the left front tire. Larson also came back, and Ryan Newton. Not long after that, Callum Williamson and Dane Kingshot came together on the exit of turn 2. We saw Dane spin as a result of that. Kendrick pulled into the work area with a flat right rear tire. Just as we went to restart the race, Oldfield pulled in as well. On lap 19, we saw a multi-car crash between Taylor Milling, Dane Kingshot, and Justin Whittle. They were all out of the race then. And just as all this was happening, I realized there was a lot of rolling laps, and I spoke to commentator Chris Mitchell and said, hey, there's probably going to be a fuel stop here soon. And then bang, almost instantly after I said that, we heard over the radio that, yep, they're going to stop for an open red. I know that some of you wonder, how do they decide when there's going to be an open red? And basically, there's a maximum number of rolling laps, whether they're green flag laps or yellow laps. The race director knows that once we get to a certain point of rolling laps, they know that in order to complete the race, however many laps are left, we need more fuel. So that's basically how that decision gets made. I've got such a love-hate relationship with open reds. I hate that it pauses the race, but it's really cool to hear what some of the drivers and teams are talking about. I really wish we had more microphones down there and you guys could hear all the things that are being discussed. Some of the discussions probably not entirely appropriate for the stream. On the restart, Matt Eagle threw a huge slider to battle for second, and then pretty early on, it looked like, oh wow, they're all running down low and the cars aren't getting sideways anymore. And that can only really mean one thing, and that is that the track had taken rubber. There wasn't really too much passing, if any at all, till the end of the race, and James McFadden went on to win for the second night in a row. It was a very casual reaction by J-Mac and his team. It kind of looked like it was maybe even just a hot lap or qualifying run. They weren't even really too stoked, to be honest, and I think it just goes to show you that they're very serious about winning on this final night. Here's what the top 3 finishers' ties look like after the feature race. One thing that I was asked about is how the work area works here for this event. I spoke to High Limit Racing director Mike Hess about this after the feature, and he said that they went with a bit of a hybrid sort of setup for the work area between what we usually have here at Perth Motorplex and what High Limit runs, and I think we're going to see some changes for this final night. From my basic understanding, here at the Perth Motorplex, they have a 15-minute window from when the feature race starts, and once that 15 minutes expires, there's no work area. For High Limit in the States, there's a 2-minute clock for each driver to come into the work area once, but if you want to come back in, you can, but there's no 2 minutes. All right, if you haven't seen the format yet, the top 4 on points are locked into the dash for this final night to race for $100,000. The top 4 are James McFadden, who's won the first 2 nights, Brad Sweet, Cole Macedo, which is a little bit of a surprise, I think, and hometown favorite Callum Williamson. And do I think Kyle Larson could win tonight? Well, he's 5th on points, not locked into the dash. He'll have to run the heat race, but I think he's got a pretty good starting spot already. Just for a brief rundown on the format, 5th on points on backwards will run the heat races. They'll be lined straight up, and the winner will go to the dash, and 2nd to 4th will also transfer to the feature race. And the feature race is scheduled for 35 laps. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this insight. If you haven't already, make sure you click subscribe to the Sprint Car Hub YouTube channel. It really, truly does help us out. And make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And if you haven't already, I'd love you to jump online to sprintcarhub.com and grab your merchandise. Kendrick pulled into the right rear with a flat right rear tire. From my basic understanding, it sounds like...
Icon? Wait.
G'day.
Toby.
How are you, mate? Can we get a photo real quick?